All packed.
Perfect.
All ready to go.
We're all ready to move along to the next city in our tour, but before we leave Venice, we do have a little bit of time in the early morning to take one final walk. Notice this guy reading the newspaper as he walks up and over the bridge without hardly missing a beat. You'll see that all the time in Venice, people walking along, reading their newspapers. They actually publish 3 different newspapers right in Venice, which is pretty remarkable considering that it's just a small town of population of about 70,000 people. And early in the morning, you don't see very many people out on the streets. It's nice and quiet, nice and peaceful. The tourists have not yet arrived for the day. There's a lot of day trippers that come into Venice. There's several 100,000 visitors every day who come into this city. And most of them get here about middle of the morning, maybe 9, 10 o'clock, and they'll leave at about 4 p.m. So one of the big advantages of spending the night in Venice is that you can get up early and have it pretty much to yourself. And the beauties of dawn include not only peace and quiet, but a smooth, shimmering reflection upon the canals. You'll see the highlights under the bridge of the sun bouncing off the water surface, and you'll see pretty reflections in the water itself of the pastel rose-colored buildings. Of course, the cats will be up at dawn with you too, looking for their morning feed. It's a time to see the city come to life, to see the covers come off the boats and people walking to work. In this case, we don't have to be walking to work. We're still on holiday. We're on vacation, and the part of town that we're walking around in is called Cannaregio. This is just north of the Grand Canal. It's between the Rialto and the train station, and it's very much a local residential neighborhood. There's not very many tourist attractions in the Cannaregio, but that makes it even more attractive for the adventurer, for the explorer who wants to see the real Venice behind the scenes, which is something that we always strive for and generally find. See the different architecture of the bridges. Some are simple, plain wooden, others are elaborate wrought iron, others are brick, and sometimes you'll find marble. There's lots of bakeries in the city. They don't import much breads, they bake it themselves. That way it's nice and fresh early in the morning, and you can find some espresso to wash it down. Well, one of our travelers, Liz, seems to be enjoying herself. So Liz, tell me your impressions of Venice.
I love it. I want to come back.
Yeah.
I really enjoy being here. We went to San Marco yesterday to listen to the music. You know, the 3 set up. They have 3 set up.
The orchestras.
The orchestras.
How was that?
Enjoyed it very much.
Really? Was it evening time?
Evening time, yeah. We went for dinner over there.
Oh, wow. So it's nice and cool.
Nice and cool.
Good for people watching.
Just the music, it just fills you up with, I don't know, romance, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Great. And that's another advantage about spending the night in a hotel in Venice. You have the evenings free, too. And one of the treats in the evening is to go to Piazza San Marco and listen to the music. There's a little garden here. There's not too many green gardens that are open to the public in Venice. In fact, this is part of a floral shop, but it's their backyard, and they don't mind if you have a walk and have a look around inside their garden. There's quite a few restaurants in this neighborhood, and so we asked Ed where he ate last night.
Well, the restaurant here, you know, last night.
Yeah? It was good.
What the place was? Trattoria.
Fishetteria Toscana?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was delicious.
Good food here.
Yeah. That's the best one so far.
Good, yeah. We ate there the night before.
Yeah.
And Adrian, how about yourself? What's your impressions of Venice?
Oh, I loved it. I think it's the best place we've come so far.
Uh-huh. And
Quaint.
right? So what do you like about it?
I liked the people. The nights was really pretty. I thought at night it was real special. All the lighting, reflections on the water.
Uh-huh. That's the beauty of spending the night here instead of coming for the day.
Yeah.
Interesting to see how the locals stop and chat and pass the time of day right at the top of a bridge, catch up on the latest news. We're traveling through Europe. There's about 30 of us on this trip, and these trips are always open to the general public. Here's that great restaurant, Fiasceteria Toscana. Hope you were watching the series earlier. We showed the outdoor dining terrace and our wonderful waiter Roberto and that interesting wine service, pouring the wine into the decanters there at Fiasceteria Toscana. Well, this is the street that it's on. It's the main little street that connects up the Rialto Bridge, which is where we're heading now, with Campo San Apostoli. The Rialto is the very busy commercial center of the city, and even in the morning here, it's about 8:30 in the morning, the Rialto is quite busy, especially busy with the delivery boats. All the goods and merchandise are coming into town, and a lot of it gets unloaded right here at the Rialto underneath the famous bridge that this neighborhood is named after. Rivus Alto means high riverbank. It was way back 1,000 years ago a place where the islands were naturally a little higher than elsewhere, and thus grew up the commercial center in the oldest part of town. Interesting to see how they offload their goods hanging from a crane, barges stacked up one next to the other, unloading their produce at the Rialto market. There's more muscle power moving goods in this city than perhaps any place else in the Western world. So you'll see a lot of human energy and, of course, always the romance. Many of the small shops of Venice are operated by just one person who's responsible for opening up and running it all day and shutting it down at the end of the day. That's why they take a 3-hour lunch break, have a nice long lunch and maybe a siesta. There is just a great density of interesting things to see when you're walking along these main little streets of the town. Lively, full of life. Here's how they move their produce up and over the bridges. These push carts, more muscle power. They just don't have the room or the space for machinery except for the boats. There's no hydraulic lifts, there's no motor scooters, there's certainly no cars, obviously, in the city. No delivery vehicles other than the boats. And don't worry about getting lost in the city. Just walk, you'll always find your way back to where you started from or to one of the main landmarks. And then you'll find your way back to your hotel, as we've done this morning. Bags are packed out the back door. The baggage porters will be taking them on the baggage barge for us. And we'll be walking to the Vaporetto, saying goodbye to the hotel staff, walking to the Vaporetto, and then taking the boat to the train station and moving along to our next destination. Here's our Hawaii Geographic Society bunch. We started this tour in Rome and spent 3 days there, and then we had a few days in Florence. And now we've enjoyed 3 days in Venice and moving along to our next city, which is going to be Lucerne, Switzerland. We're looking forward to a nice train ride through the Alps today. What did you think of Venice?
I love it. I would love to come back again. It is so beautiful. I love the canals, the waterways. I love it.
A short walk from our hotel brings us to the Cadoro Vaporetto stop, and it's morning rush hour here on the Grand Canal. All the delivery boats bringing the goods and the people. Remember these gondolas that cross from one side of the Grand Canal to the other, called the traghetto, and it's just about 50 cents for this boat ride. Cheap gondola ride if you don't want to do the evening gondola ride or the 50-minute gondola ride. But you really should, as we leave Venice, reflect back upon what were the highlights, and certainly the gondola ride is one of the finest things that we've done in Venice, or done anywhere in Europe for that matter. Squeezing our way onto the Vaporetto, it's actually a fairly large boat. It holds over 100 people, so there's plenty of room for everybody. And we're soon enjoying the grand view as we sweep up the middle of the Grand Canal. Our pilot doing a fine job here. For these guys, it's like instinct. They probably don't even think too much while they're piloting these boats. They've got to keep their eyes open, though, for all this traffic. And for the rest of us, we want to keep our eyes open for the scenery and for all the pictures that we can take. Passing the Church of San Stai, this elaborate Baroque masterpiece was built in 1709 by Domenico Rossi. We round the bend and we come upon the Fondaco dei Turchi. This was one of the oldest buildings in Venice, and you'll see its facade, the warehouse with the loggia underneath, so the merchants could keep their eyes on the goods that were offloaded, and they'd be living and conducting their business up on the second floor. It's now the Natural History Museum of the city. Most goods are brought to Venice by truck to the Piazza Roma, and there they're transferred to the boats and brought down into the heart of the city through the Grand Canal, which goes right into the middle of town. This is a different kind of vaporetto. This is called the motoscafo, and it's a little smaller than the vaporetto, and it's a little faster. It doesn't make quite as many stops. See here more of the muscle power that moves goods around in this city. Everything's got to be brought in by boat. Most of the travelers in Venice are from Italy. Most of the tourists that you see walking around or riding in the boats are from other parts of this great country, and they all flock to Venice to see some of their great ancestral heritage and to see the best preserved major old city in the country. So we soon arrive at the stop for the train station, getting off the Vaporetto with our carry-on bags. The luggage has gone on the baggage barge. The Portabagagli service is taking it directly to the train station, and we'll meet them there. Notice this charming old lady. She's a local Venetian, and she knows how to get out of the way of the crowds and duck to the side and let this mob from Hawaii get past her so she can walk on in her own peace and tranquility. There's about 33 of us on this trip. We started in Rome, and we'll end up in London by the end of the tour, 18 days later. We're traveling by train. It's the most comfortable and the fastest way to get around in Europe when you're with a group. You can go by bus, certainly. The motor coach tours of Europe are an old established tradition, and they'll take you from your hotel door to door right to your next hotel. When you go by train, it's a little bit more of an adventure. You're responsible for moving your own suitcases in the train station area anyway. And we all help each other load the bags on board the train, so for some people who have a little trouble lifting their suitcase, no problem. They can just get on the train and sit down and get out of the way, and our baggage team will load the bags for them, as you'll see in a moment. We're traveling by first-class Eurail, and in this case today we're going from Venice to Lucerne. We make the trip in 2 legs on the train from Venice to Milan, and then we change trains and continue directly from Milan to Lucerne through the heart of the Swiss Alps on one of the prettiest train rides of our entire tour. These trains are real comfortable. It kind of looks like the old Orient Express. We're having fun. The seating is in very comfortable and quiet compartments in groups of 6 seats, sliding doors, and great scenery. Now we're going over the causeway. This was constructed late in the 19th century, and it connected Venice finally with a land link to the mainland of the Veneto area. There's a highway and also a railway. So in just a few minutes we've arrived back on the mainland, passing through the little town of Venezia Mestre, which is the main bedroom community of Venice. And it's a place where you could stay. There's some hotels there if you don't want to stay in Venice itself for some reason.
Venice was a beautiful city. I loved it, especially because I didn't have to see any churches, but it was beautiful.
You can actually pull the seats together and form a king-size double bed. Very comfortable. You can lie down and relax or maybe take a nap. Of course, you'll also be tempted to sit up and pay attention to the beautiful scenery gliding by.
The shopping was fun in Venice.
Yeah.
The shopping was really an incredible experience. The beautiful glassworks, it was just beautiful. The whole city. The gondola rides were truly romantic and beautiful. And I wrote a letter to my husband. I told him one day maybe will come to Venice.
Yeah.
So he can wine me and dine me in Venice.
You're watching the Hawaii Geographic Society tour of Europe. We've started in Rome and we've been through Florence and we're just leaving Venice now